Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26B Race Radio Podcast. I'm Jim Levinsky here once again with Coach Jerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good. That sounds like a boxing
You got to
introduction.
put on your radio voice. It's 95,000 degrees and sunny here in Southern California. It is hot outside. I didn't sleep a wink last night. Our air conditioning's broken, but hence the Hawaiian shirt. When it's a tropical atmosphere, Southern California, you got to live it up. Actually, I'm thinking forward to our Kona trip in October, and I'm counting down the days.
You're getting ready.
I'm getting ready.
You're in training.
I'm in training. That's why I'm warming up the vocal cords, because it's going to be a long week of hemming and hawing with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. But it is warm here. Are you warm, Jer? We had a beautiful ocean swim. Beautiful ocean swim the other morning.
Yes, it was terrific,
It might have been the most
it?
beautiful ocean swim that we've had in the 15 years we've been doing.
It was definitely one of the top of the mountain mornings. I mean, beautiful sunshine and warm water, no wind. I mean, perfect conditions.
It was perfect. It was a lot to be said from the previous week where we had injuries left and right. And, this one we have fish underneath. And Emily told me she stepped on a fish while she was going out there.
I go out of town for two Wednesdays, and I leave it in your hands and people get injured. What's that all about?
It's all, you know why? Because I just say, put your head down and go. Don't think. You make everybody think. I say, Shepke, put your head down and get out there. And that's where we run into problems. But hey, speaking of the shirts, I was speaking to one of our swimmers, Chris Shiflett. You know Chris?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So Chris is the lead guitarist for a little-known band that you might
know. A little-known band,
the Foo Fighters. He swims with us. And he was on tour in Canada recently.
Oh, he was?
And he came back and he said, hey, Jim, I love the podcast. It's great. But I was in Canada and I was watching some Don Cherry interviews. You know who Don Cherry is?
Sure.
He is a color analyst for CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company, Hockey Night in Canada. And he has these very outlandish outfits he wears every week. And Chris said to me, he said, Jim, because you're so outlandish the way you act on the radio and on the podcast, you should wear the outlandish outfits. And I said, Chris, this is an amazing idea. So from now on, should I start wearing... So we have two options here. I can start wearing outlandish shirts and outlandish blazers the way Don Cherry does. Or I can start wearing outlandish Speedos every episode.
I'm going to let the audience answer that question, and they can just write in directly to you.
So I'd be sitting here, just Speedos, just letting it all hang out. Would you be comfortable with this option?
I'd be comfortable if there were water around.
This might be a good opportunity for sponsorship. Speedo, Arena, Tier. Someone could write in, hey, I have plenty of Speedos you could wear. Just switch them out every episode. It'd be great. The Don Cherry of triathlon, Jim Lubinsky.
See what I have to put up with on a day-to-day basis?
But hey, all you people out there, I hope you watched, moving on, I hope you watched the interview with this one last week on Triathlete Magazine.
All right.
Triathlete Magazine Facebook page, YouTube with Emma Kate.
Emma Kate, yeah.
It was very informative.
Yeah, Emma Kate did a terrific job. Emma Kate used to swim with us many years ago, a professional triathlete.
See, I want to give a plug for that, but I also wanted to say there's something missing from that interview. I mean, you look good on screen. You gave a lot of good info, but you just look, speaking of naked, you look kind of naked. You're missing something on the screen. So, yeah, this one. Exactly.
I figured.
Actually,
I knew where you were going.
Just saying, they did write me, and they said, hey, you should come out too, but somebody's got to hold the fort down. As usual, somebody's got to run and make the donuts here while you're gone.
You know, I don't even think I need to sit here. I mean, I think you could just ramble for the entire show.
Here's the thing. I know it's a 45-minute show, an hour. I get the first 5 minutes. The rest is all you. So let me have my time in the sun here. Can you please let me?
You know, your watch is going off. I mean, you got Facebook messages on there, Twitter messages on there. You're already getting, look at
Cyril
that.
Russell Harris is writing me right now. I'm sure he's watching online, and he's going to write a smart ass comment to us. And, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to reading on air. And also, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. So if you guys have any questions for us, Christoph is monitoring the questions in the comments. If he reads something, he's going to let us know, and we'll get it to you. So don't be afraid to write in. This episode, we're dealing with race anxiety. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it, Chair, because we have a lot of races coming up this weekend. There's Santa Rosa 70.3, Ironman Canada, Ironman Ohio 70.3. There's a ton of races. A lot of races coming up, and we're looking forward to talking about that. But what did we speak about last show before we get into that?
Well, we did the 2 must-do drills for open water.
Yes.
Those are things we practice in the pool, and then we export them to open water. So those were the drafting drills and the side-by-side switching off positioning drills. We talked about Anka, one of our athletes in our plan, on what his 70.3 race was like, having to run the majority of the bike ride, and then run the run portion. And what else?
Today at the Tour de France, if you were watching Tour de France, they canceled the race after the climb. And
I don't even know why I'm here sometimes.
Well, here's the thing. Anka, these riders and the teams can learn something from Anka. They didn't have to cancel the race. They could have got off their bikes and run through the snow until the snow stopped and they get back on. That's all I have to say. Go ahead.
Do you want to get on the Tour de France?
I'll talk to the race director. Get him on. You know everybody. Get him on the horn. Actually, Christophe's French. He probably knows. All those people know each other over there, right? Give him a call. So sorry. So we talked about Anka. So we're going to talk about race anxiety today.
And we also talked about last week why pool swim times don't convert to open water. There's some folks who think that, hey, I'm swimming at 130 per 100 pace in the swimming pool, and I go to open water and I'm a lot slower. So we talked about why.
Got it. And today we're talking about race anxiety. I want to talk about our popular shows. Mm-hmm. The Cam Wurf episode is number one, the biggest show of all time.
It's amazing, huh? He's done.
And we say it every week. He's at home clicking, but that's no joke. He's at home clicking that episode and listening to himself every time. I'm sure of it. But following close behind is that Lucy Charles episode. It has 108,000 Facebook views.
Yeah,
where we spoke about Lucy Charles' swim stroke. So
that was popular. Actually, analyzing her stroke against her husband, who has a beautiful pool stroke.
Yeah,
it was good.
But another episode that's been heavily listened to is the 5 phases of triathlon training. That's actually the second most listened to episode on the podcast numbers that we have. Our episode about percentage efforts in training, then it followed by tautness, and then followed by wetsuits. So we pretty much cover all these different topics in our episodes. So if you haven't listened to them, like everybody else, go back and listen to those episodes.
I think you need to rebrand the least listened to episode. We need to give it a different name. And you know which one it is? It hasn't changed. It still sits at the bottom. Presence. We need to have a different name for it. Because I think that is such a important nugget for performance.
Oh yeah,
in training to have optimized performance, and I think there are only 7,000 or 8,000 downloads.
Oh, it's a perfect example of people nowadays. They want to do. They don't want to get mindful and think about, hey, this is where I'm at right now.
Right. Well, maybe
listen to presence, people. Listen to it. That's a demand. Countries that are moving up the list: France, as previously spoke about.
Amazing, huh?
Christophe.
Maybe they found that Christophe has learned that
he's part of this. Maybe we should get him on camera sometime. He's got a beautiful face.
He does.
Yeah. One of these days. Ireland moved into the top 10. They probably have to just have that crazy Ironman over there, so people probably want to learn for next year how to approach it. Some other countries moving up the list are United Arab Emirates, Norway, Brazil, and some new countries: Andorra, Burkina.
Yeah.
Faso and St. Lucia.
Right.
St. Lucia's a beautiful spot. Megan and I went there last year. We should do a show from St. Lucia.
Wait a minute. Maybe that's why.
Grand Pétan, Petit Pétan. That's what they have there. The Grand Pétan, the Petit Pétan.
The Petit Pétans.
Petit Pétan. Yeah. You know St. Lucia.
Of course.
It's a neighbor country. He swam from Trinidad to St. Lucia twice, back and forth. They do it as laps down there. Right? They just go one way and the other way. I'm on fire today.
You are on fire, man.
All right, what are we going to talk about this show, Jay? Let's get into it.
Well, let's talk about race anxiety and why folks get anxiety for their races, and then what to do to overcome that. I think that's one of the main topic of today. And then I want to talk a little bit, by the way, Jim, about there's been quite a bit of discussion I've seen on social media and many of the media outlets about wetsuits. It's obviously that time of the season.
Yep.
And I wanted to just add some thought to the two-piece wetsuit. So I wanted to
two-piece wetsuit, right?
Which is I don't know. I believe only DeSoto makes a two-piece. Is there any other manufacturer making a two-piece?
I haven't heard of anything else. I think DeSoto is just known for making their two-piece.
Yeah.
A big thing that happened, also coming off topic once again, is this weekend. The temperatures are hot everywhere over here in the United States, and Ohio, Santa Rosa, what typically would be wetsuit swims are all of a sudden going non-wetsuit for age groupers. So you have a lot of amateurs jumping in, buying swim skins, and just using them for the first time on race day. So I know one of our topics here that we're going to cover on anxiety is trying stuff out before the race, but that's something I wanted you to touch
let's use this opportunity to discuss also athletes, and because we have a few of them, athletes who use their wetsuits and or lava pants and or the sim shorts, the short Roka shorts. Well, all the manufacturers have one now, but neoprene shorts in workouts consistently. In other words, they don't take them off and they're not in their regular swimsuits, they're adding on their wetsuit in workouts for whatever their reasons are. I get it in the wintertime, but in the summertime, and especially to your point, given that so many races, the temperatures are super warm, Europe's having a heat wave also.
Yeah, oh, big time.
So these races are going to be non-wetsuit, and if you're just training in a wetsuit or these neoprene shorts constantly in the pool, you're going to show up an event day ill-prepared, completely ill-prepared. It would be similar to running on a gravitron at a massive weight subsidy, and then all of a sudden, with no real weight, you go off on race day and think you're going to perform. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
In fact, we've had some members that did some races and they didn't make the swim cutoff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. You start to use it as a crutch and start totally used to doing it that way. It's like using your fins every single lap or using a buoy every lap. Then you go to a race, you don't have fins, you don't have a buoy, you don't have your wetsuit, and you suffer because of it. So you got to prepare for all wrenches that can be thrown into race day.
Well, let's take the minute to talk about the two-piece wetsuit, the Soto
we're
wetsuit.
right there.
If there's another, I don't know if it's another manufacturer. I think it's worth testing. I think it's super comfortable. I've tried one in the past many years ago, and for some folks, and the beauty of it too is you can decide, I just want to wear the top and not the bottom on race day, or I just want to wear the bottom and not the top. That's one of the beauties of it. If it's super cool in a workout, you can just wear the top also. So I think it's flexibility and not literal, but it's the ability to interchange the garment as you see fit is helpful. One of the drawbacks, obviously, it will take a little bit longer to remove on event day. But the biggest drawback is it's slower.
Yeah, I can see a little more drag probably being.
So if you want performance out of it, it's going to be slower, and it's related to, because it's not one piece, it's not going to hold tautness. So that is the main reason, because your regular wetsuit grabs you at the shoulders, grabs you at the crotch, and helps you be completely completely firm and taut, especially if it fits well. This doesn't. It's two pieces, so you're not going to have that opportunity.
Got it. And you know what they call it when you wear the top with no pants? They call it the Winnie the Pooh.
All right,
they call me in college. But let's talk about some anxiety, race day anxiety. That's a good nugget on the two-piece.
It's a biggie. I think there are two types of anxiety. There is what I would consider the normal anxiety, or you may couch this under anxiety, which is sort of race day nerves. And that's the little butterflies that we get on event day, and perhaps even a few days leading up, and then close to the start line. And that's the normal, and I'm not even sure if the right word is anxiety. It's the normal sort of race buildup, the little race jitters that we get. And I
always say if you don't have those, there's something wrong. You're going into a race, you're going to have that.
Right.
It's normal.
It's there. You learn to make it your friend. In fact, you learn to utilize that as a tool, because that helps a little extra adrenaline and helps the start and so on. So I think that's a good thing. So recognize there's that. Then there's actual anxiety. And I think we have to ask, okay, what causes anxiety? Okay, so we go through the step of what are the causations of it? And then we have to look at how do we treat it? Okay. Yeah. And then we can come up with a roadmap to give the audience a way to go about being better prepared for event day, which thus reduces anxiety. But it's basically, you have to do a number of things to help reduce that anxiety. So let's identify, Jim, some of those things that create anxiety. Probably one of the first things would be a prior negative race experience.
Right.
You went to an event and something happened. You had shortness of breath. Maybe your race takeout was too fast and you weren't prepared for that, and heart rate got super high. Perhaps the water was really cold and that caused tightness in the chest, or the wetsuit was too tight. Perhaps the contact with lots of your competitors being in close quarters created anxiety. Not warming up. It's another one that would create anxiety from the perspective of you didn't warm up and then you immediately got into a high output segment of the race, the beginning, and you're in close quarters, and perhaps the water was cold. You start putting all these pieces together, and that ups the ante for anxiety.
Yeah, you just remember hyperventilation. Right. Can't see the buoys, all that kind of stuff that, you lean on from previous experiences, and you don't know what's going to happen in this race. Is it going to happen again?
And that's probably, and one of the biggest things would be, we need a certain amount of skills, open water skills, to be able to conquer the beginning part of the race. And if we have those skills, that's going to help reduce anxiety, because those skills, developing those skills will give you confidence. So if you haven't practiced running into the water, races that have running starts. If you haven't practiced in your training sessions running and then swimming immediately after, if you haven't practiced swimming fast at the very beginning, race takeout speed, if you haven't practiced swimming in cold water, especially if the events are the earlier part of the season when water temperatures are colder than they are now, if you haven't practiced swimming in close proximity, if you haven't practiced frequent sighting, if you haven't practiced turning of the buoys and so on, all of these pieces, if we haven't practiced them, we haven't developed a skill set. Yeah. So therefore, you don't really have the obvious confidence. So the likeliness to have anxiety and fear and wondering, how am I going to do in this race? Or standing at the start line, we see this all the time with the head down, and it's just sort of that thinking, I just got to get to my bike, right? That's not good. So we have to then build in all of the pieces that create anxiety into our training sessions, right?
Right.
So let's start piece by piece, one at a time. Let's just start with equipment as an example. Wetsuits and goggles. Those are really the only two pieces of equipment you have in an event. You have a swim cap, but the race director gives you those. So goggles, make sure if you bought new goggles, you've tested them several times before you get to event day. That's an obvious one.
So I made that mistake one time. I forgot my goggles at home. I went by the expo. I bought a new pair of goggles. Didn't use them at all. Just put them on. Oh, they fit all right. Get halfway through the Ironman swim, and they're sucking my eyeballs out of my head. And then I try to fix them. They start filling with water.
Yep.
Bad experience. Horrible. Don't do that.
And especially if you haven't tested them, sometimes the nose piece might be too narrow, which could be one of the causes for you.
Schnoz, holy cow. Yeah. You need a nose piece that comes, it's like a horseshoe, a literal horseshoe like this big that goes around the schnoz.
So test it before, multiple times in workouts. Second thing, your wetsuit. Purchasing a new wetsuit's terrific, or even if you've had one but you haven't worn it yet for the season, you need to wear your wetsuit several times before event day. Waiting until event day to wear your wetsuit is an absolute no-no. That is something we just can't do. The material gets too, what's the word? It's not supple, dried out, and then it's tighter on you. So any sort of expanding of the chest and faster takeout speed and so on, and if that wetsuit's too tight, it's going to pull you into the chest, pull into the chest,
choke you over your
choke you over your neck, and that's going to create further anxiety, or will introduce anxiety if you didn't have it. So from an equipment perspective, you need to wear both of your items, your goggles and your wetsuit, in training sessions, and preferably wear it for an entire training session, your wetsuit. So if you're doing a half Ironman race, you want to make sure you've worn your wetsuit in the workout for at least 22 minutes if you're total elite half Ironman athlete, all the way up to an hour for your slower athletes.
Now we're going to get people who were listening to the show and they're going to write in, hey, you just said don't use your wetsuit in training. Now you're saying use your wetsuit in training. Can you stipulate those two? Beginning we said don't use wetsuit. Now, I know this, but you're going to have people write in and say, you just said don't. Now you're saying do. What's the answer?
Well, leading up to your races, right? You're going to want to test the wetsuit. And I just said it earlier, a few times before race day. But don't wear your wetsuit or your sim shorts or your lava pants or whatever it may be in every workout.
I know type A triathletes, and I know what they're going to do. Everyone wants to be heard, Jer. And Christoph, as soon as you get one of those comments, I want you to read it to me so I can point that person out.
All right, so basically test your equipment before event day. Now let's start going through the other pieces. Warm up. How many races have you gone to where there's no warm up allowed? Or the warm up is truncated in time? I mean, 2 or 3 minutes.
Every single
It's almost
race.
every race today.
Yep.
So
well, for a while, because of you, Ironman was giving warm ups, and then they just said, we're not going to do that anymore. This kind of fell off.
You mean they don't listen to us?
Well, they listened to you for like 2 races, and then now it's back to the warm up.
Well, we need to make sure that you can find a way to warm up.
Go ahead, tell the story.
I don't want to sidebar on it, but there's an opportunity to warm up in every single race.
Yep.
Okay. No race director, and I'm not going to go into this. Here's the bottom line. You need to have a predetermined warm-up. Go listen to the podcast that we did with Mark Spitz on warming up. You need to have a predetermined warm-up that's practiced several weeks in advance, consistently, so that warm-up is memorized and adapted to, and then we export that to race day, and you budget in the proper amount of time to get that warm-up executed on event day. So body is warm, ready to race. Get that out of the way. Now, running into the water.
Well, real quick on warm-up.
Yeah.
even if there's no warm up in the water, know what you're going to do out of the water. Know exactly how you're going to do it. Your stretch cords, push-ups, jumping jacks, squats, whatever you're going to do, have it lined up. So you're not just standing there like, oh, okay, I'll do some arm swings now, or I'll do whatever. Like, have it regimented how you're going to do it. So if there is no water warm up, you know exactly how you're going to treat that dry land warm up.
And what you're really saying, what Jim's saying here to all of us is there's a process that we need to follow. And you need to be very, very process driven going through these steps on event day, because once you put checks in each box of these steps on event day, each time you put a check in a box, it reduces anxiety. It gives you more confidence. You know that you're better prepared. So I have an example that we use. If you have a glass of water and it's room temperature, the only way to get that water cold is to put a block of ice and another block of ice and another block of ice, and eventually gets cold. But if you only put one block of ice, which is learning one skill for open water, the water is not going to get too cold. You put 2 blocks, it gets a little cooler. Put 3 blocks, it gets cooler again. 4 or 5 blocks, starts getting cold. Well, you want to be able to add in lots of blocks, which are all the skills and all the tools needed, so that on an event day, you are prepared, and the word is you are confident. And that's going to ultimately reduce your anxiety. So let's back up and go into where we were. Warm-up needs to be done. Then you need to line up. What's the next thing? The gun goes off. If it's a land start, there's a run into the water, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to be running for 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it may be into the water, you need to build that into your training sessions. So open water training sessions and or pool training sessions, build it in.
Yeah.
Now there's an excuse of, well, my swimming pool doesn't allow me to run on the pool deck. Well, most don't. But you can stand on the side of the pool and
dive in, run around the bleachers, do some jumping jacks. Just get used to that.
Some calisthenic movement for 10 or 15 seconds, and then you dive in or jump into the pool and start your swim set. Example, if you're swimming 5 times 200, you'd stand up on the pool deck, you'd go 10 or 15 seconds of some form of calisthenic, and then you would immediately dive in, do your 200, climb out at the end, rest standing up, and then when you get ready to go again for the second repeat, you do the running ahead of time. So we're building in that skill and adaptation for it for event day.
Yeah.
The next thing that happens once we get into a race, what's the immediate thing that everybody does once they hit the water?
Put their head down, swim as fast as they can.
They go as fast as possible, although they think they're not.
Yeah.
But point is, you do. If you're going to go quickly, given that we know that's going to happen, we need to build that into our training sessions. So in that example of 5 times 200, you'll swim the first 50 to 100 yards of 50 to 100 meters fast. Race output. And for us, we train at that at 90% effort, right? So you would swim fast on each of those 5 times 200 examples that we're just doing. So we practice the warm-up. We practice the run into the water. We're now practicing race takeout speed. What's the next thing that happens when we're
gotta look where you're going.
Gotta look where we're going. So we need to practice sighting. How many times do folks get to these events and have no sighting skills?
I'd say 90% of the field, the amateur field.
Poor sighting skills, right? You have to develop a silky, smooth sighting experience. So it's called the lift, look, and breathe method. We've talked about it in multiple episodes in the past. But the only way to do that is you have to build it into your pool training sessions first. Then we can export it to open water and practice it in open water also before race day. But it starts in the swimming pool. So learning how to have a very silky, sighting methodology is helpful. So build those into your training session. So on event day, it's easy. We don't even have to think about it. It's pretty automatic.
Yeah.
Contact. How's that?
You got 150 of your closest friends starting at the same time in an area the width of this table. So if you're not used to swimming in close proximity to people, you're gonna have a problem. Hyperventilation, freaking out. You're gonna have to wait for everybody to go. You want to be used to swimming in close proximity to everybody else. So how do you do that in a pool?
You got to get a few of your like-minded triathlete friends, get together and practice some workouts in the pool and obviously open water where you swim in close quarters. And swimming in close quarters doesn't mean you have the width of the lane and Jim swims on one side and I swim on the other side. It means you got to get super, super close. You get 3 or 4 people together where there's almost no space, you're shoulder to shoulder, and you have to get familiar with that. And I call it being familiar with the discomfort. Doesn't mean we're ever going to like it, but we've got to get familiar with the discomfort of what that's like.
And then when you do that, you can add in sighting, race takeout speed, and close proximity all at the same time. So you're pretty much mimicking the exact start of the race. Right. And then you can even run around, dive in, and then do all that together.
So all of those pieces, to Jim's point, get get practice in your pool sessions, and then you take those and you go to an open water opportunity that's close by to you, if that's possible, a lake, an ocean, whatever it may be, with some friends, and you then practice some open water sessions ahead of race day. And you're going to need a handful of those. Remember, it takes about 10 times for great adaptation to occur. So if it's possible to get 10 open water sessions in, that's ideal. But even if we get 4 or 5, I think that's helpful. But do it with some other like-minded and hopefully equivalent speed athletes.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to think these things through before you go to your practice. You know, if you, like you said, if you're gonna do 5 200s, work all these in, write it down, say, this is what I'm gonna practice on this 200, this is what I'm gonna practice on this 200, now I'm gonna put it all together for this one. You got to think it through before you get there, because most of these masters groups around the country, you know, it's great that they have groups out there swimming, but they don't integrate any of this into their training.
Correct.
The way we do day in and day out.
Now, there's some things that we can't practice in the swimming pool that you have to go to open water to do, such as wind, chop, currents, the indigenous elements of open water that don't occur in your swimming pool. So for that's why it's important and necessary to build in consistent and frequent open water training sessions. And if you did a whole bunch of them, as we do, we have 2 a week now. So over the season, we have 50 opportunities approximately for open water sessions. Mm-hmm. If you came to even a third of those or half of those, you've experienced at some point throughout the season high wind, high chop, flat water, pristine conditions like we had on Wednesday, large surf like we had last week.
Yeah.
You go through and you learn all the elements and you start becoming familiar with those elements. But if you don't have any familiarity with them, it would be pretty normal to have some anxiety on event day if you showed up and it's super, super choppy from high wind or and it's typically high wind generally that causes massive chop, or just rough ocean conditions from a big surf swell.
Yeah.
But you have to practice them in open water. You have to get some open water sessions in.
If you want the epitome of this race day anxiety that we're talking about and people who haven't practiced anything, go to the Malibu Triathlon in September. It is 2,000 people who have not swam in the ocean before, haven't practiced any skills. They're standing in front of this beast down at Zuma that is the Pacific Ocean. And you see these faces and the anxiety in these faces.
And Zuma's a tough beach because it's a steep gradient.
Yeah, so if you're doing Malibu, come see us. We'll help you out.
Well, and unfortunately, I've developed a little bit of a reputation of being a little bit of a hard ass, I guess, regarding that race.
Oh, he's a big teddy bear over here, this guy.
Well, regarding that race, because we get phone calls 2 or 3 weeks before that race every single year wanting to come swim with us, and I tell them it's great. We'll take you for next year.
Yeah.
But not for this year. I'm not going to take the risk of trying to bring somebody up to steam in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I coach the Amazon triathlon team and the Amazon Studios triathlon team. And last year I had them doing all the stuff, deck ups, diving in, sighting. Race day, they had an amazing experience. Whereas all their partner teams, there was people, I think the number is like 500 people get saved by lifeguards, but nobody on my team had to get saved because they got through the waves, they were sighting, they got out, because we practice everything in practice. So that's a little bragging for us, Jay.
So there's some indigenous things to open water that we're not going to have those experiences in the pool, such as we outlined, the chop and on wind and so on. But there's also other elements that build in natural fears. I have some of them, and that's to do not being able to see the bottom for some people, or seeing the bottom and don't like what they see at the bottom, ocean creatures and so on. But the only way to overcome those fears are to have some familiarity with them again, and that's through multiple experiences. So the message here really is about you have to acquire a set of open water tools, which are skills. And those skills are first learned in the swimming pool. And the ones you can't, you do have to learn them and experience them in open water. We do them over a sustained period of time, consistently, and that eventually gives us a certain amount of confidence. So when we get to race day, we know where we're going to start on the start line. We've already made the decision, to your point, ahead of time. Am I on the right side of the field, the left side of the field, whatever it may be? I've done my warm-up. I've done my stretch cords. I've gotten my core nice and warm. I did some running built into my training sessions ahead of time. Once the race starts, I've built in race takeout speed into my training sessions. I've built in sighting into my training sessions. I've built in close contact into my training sessions. And check by check by check, we put all of these checks in our boxes, and then we become very, very process-driven on race day. Here's what I do for the first 10 seconds, then the next 10 seconds, then the next 30 seconds, so forth and so on. And before you know it, you're 5 to 10 minutes into your race, and there's even no room in your container for anxiety because you're just thinking about, all right, here's this skill I need to deploy now, here's this next skill, here's this next skill. And before you know it, you're halfway into the race, and then you're getting ready actually to look forward to transition.
Yeah. And if you don't want to think about any of your workouts, you just want to go do it on a plan that's already formulated for the triathlete that integrates all these in, coaching.tower26.com. That's the real message, Jer. Because you're going to get faster. You're going to have a lot less anxiety because we practice all this stuff, and you'll be a lot fresher to your bike, and your mind will be clear because you had a great swim because we worked on all of that. We're very process driven. We put all this stuff into our workouts, especially this time of year, and you're race ready.
Right.
So coaching.tower26.com.
Get faster.
Check that out.
Be more confident, and fresh to your bike. Those are the three things.
That's the tagline. That's what our t-shirt's going to say. But you actually just sounded like Liam Neeson on the movie Taken. You said, I'm going to give you a certain specific set of skills. I have a certain specific set of skills. Liam Neeson.
That's right. I've watched that movie probably 10 times.
I know you did. I can
Skills
tell.
that make a man like me.
Recited it just as if you were Liam Rodriguez. So, hey, let's get to the workout of the episode. Some good info there. Remember, write us contact@tower26.com if you guys have any questions on any of that, or Facebook, YouTube right now. Write us in. Christoph will read it off. But let's get to the workout of the episode. And I think we addressed some of this stuff that we were just speaking about in the workout.
Well, interestingly, I selected this workout because I'm going to counter exactly what I just said a little bit. What if we get to race day and the race director absolutely shackles you and says you cannot get into the ocean?
You slap him in the face and you said, I'm getting in the ocean. I can do what I want. This actually paid $950 for this race. So you can't really tell me what to do, buddy.
So
that's
you
what I would do.
No warm-up. Yes, of course. No warm-up opportunity. What do? So we build this into our workouts. In fact, we did this week, right? Folks showed up to our Tuesday and Wednesday morning workouts, not knowing ahead of time. Folks in our plan knew ahead of time, but our other location-based athletes don't get our workouts ahead of time. And they're ready to do our regular warm-up that we have integrated in. And I called everyone together and said, there's no warm-up this morning. You've got 10 minutes to get yourself ready. And here's what happened. You either got into a traffic jam on the way to the race venue, or the race director just doesn't allow warm-up, and you have no physical warm-up opportunity in the water. So what are we going to do? So we give our athletes 10 minutes, and I give them a little process-driven sequence to go through. You got to get your core warm so you can go jog for 4, 5, or 6 minutes. You need to do something to activate your muscles. In this case, we did some stretch cords or some sort of half push-ups, some form of when you press your hands together or shoulders so you can activate muscles also. And they were given step by step what to do. And then with 2 minutes to go, so they had 8 minutes of activity, and then with 2 minutes to go, we lined everyone up. And you have to spend those 2 minutes at the start line of your race doing you're envisioning what the start's going to be like and that feeling. So we get those race butterflies. And then we sent everybody off on a 20-minute race effort, no warm-up swim.
Yeah, we did that. And you actually get the butterflies. You do all that stuff for 10 minutes, and then you stand on the edge, and you're counting it down 1 minute, 30 seconds, and you get that race butterfly. And I really visualize being at the start line, and it's the exact feeling. So if you can work this into your training, you just get used to that feeling through this. I mean, you're all that much prepared.
Right. So it's a little bit of familiarity with what's going to occur on an event day where you've missed a warm-up opportunity. And there's a whole menu item of all the details to do, and that you can find that on the website. Once that was finished, guys, we went into a 10-minute recovery pull. So you got our pulling gear on, an ankle strap. We did an empty buoy and snorkel, and it was 10 minutes of recovery. And then we hit a main swim set where we did a series of 100s, and we had 3 effort levels. We had a 70% effort, an 80% effort, and a 90% effort. So we had 1 swim, 70%, 2 swims at 80%, and the 4th swim at 90%. We set a fixed interval that gave about 10 to 15 seconds rest, and then we repeated that several cycles through. So for our fastest athletes, it was 20 repetitions, so 2100s.
Now, all these people, everyone has to realize that we scale it based on ability level. You're not, you're a newer swimmer or a slower swimmer. You're not going to get 20 by 100. We scale it based on who you are and your ability level in the water.
When we deliver these workouts to our plan athletes, whatever level you're at, it's scaled for your ability. So 2100s for the fastest group, 16 for the next group, 14, 12, and so on.
Because I'm sure some people listening, like 2100s, that's going to take me 3 days. So we scale it for you. Just know that.
Right. And then after that, we did some sighting skill building. We had about a 7 or 8 minute swim, lowered heart rate down to 75% or so, and then we practiced 2 sights per 25 for those 7 or 8 minutes. So again, you're going to get in about 40 or 50 sightings just in that little segment. And then we wrapped up the workout with some 25s at race takeout speed, swimming 3 abreast, I believe, with high frequency of sighting. So again, all those specific skills that we talked about to help reduce anxiety.
Go to coaching.tower26.com for the details on that workout, some videos, and yeah, sign up, sign up, tell your friends, sign up, and then all you guys can go together and get some close proximity swimming on the Tower 26 plan. Let's get some questions of the episode. You guys can write in coaching@tower26.com. Jessica will weed through those and give us the important ones. First question's from Shane Porteous of Australia. Good day, mate. Put another, is that what they say?
Another shrimp.
I just may as well. Yeah, whatever. Hey, Jerry, Jim, just found the podcast after hearing Cam Worf episode. So there's another person clicking on the Cam Worf episode besides Cam. And I'm slowly working through the podcasts. I'm sorry you have to listen to me there, Shane. Learning a lot, particularly being able to and noticing the difference in swim efforts. To help build endurance, what do you recommend? A long continuous swim of 1,500 to 2,000 meters and a warm up and cool down, or one of your foundation swims, which would include 4 by 1,000 meter sets of various efforts and distances? Should I be placing more emphasis on being able to swim 2,000 meters nonstop or 4,000 meters at various efforts and stops? Training for a 70.3 November, and I'm currently swimming on a good week 3 times a week.
Shane, thanks for your questions. I'm going to let Jim give you a little spanking here.
So you tell us that you're listening to the podcast here, Shane, and you're asking this asinine question. You should know better. Please, you cannot write in for 4 weeks at least. You can write in 5 weeks, but 4 weeks, done. Go back and listen to your podcasts. We all know the answer to this. I think all the listeners know the answer to this. But Jared, do you want to put him in his place as well?
Shane, if you're going to do some continuous swims, I think that's fine for 2 or 3 times at the most. After that, they're very low value in return on your time investment. So build in the alternative, which are various speed levels. You actually, I believe you knew the answer to this question. But he was from Australia.
So here's the thing. I know Australia, the bruisers down there, I could be a little rough with these guys. If he was from somewhere, say, San Francisco, I'd be a little more lighter with him. But Australia, I can be rough with you, buddy. So all kidding aside, do the right work on it. Go keep listening to podcasts. Next question is from Mark McCarthy in New York. See, I can be tough with New York too. So let's see what this question is going to be. I don't pre-read these questions just so I can go off the cuff. It's my improv time. So we'll see how it is. New York, I know Mark can take it as well. Jerry or colleagues?
How do you like that being addressed as colleague?
Just a colleague. Next questions from Jose Maria Ponce. Hey, Jerry, I've been a fan of your work for some time. I've been hesitant to contact you since I was not a believer in swimming online coaching. I'm a competitive Ironman 70.3 age grouper. I won last year at Ironman 70.3, and this year I won the same, but also got first in all of the age groups. So he overall won. Yep. I've qualified for 3 Ironman 70.3 World Championships. You can look me up at obstry.com.
Yeah.
Look at that little plug for Christoph's website, obstry.com. If you guys want to check out any results for you, your competitors, the people you dislike in the sport. I think you have results there from track events from 15 years ago, don't you? Yes, results from everything. Now, obstry.com gives you all your results from all your races from forever, right? I'll be racing Ironman Arizona in November. I've been swimming with my home club coach, but I feel like I've plateaued. I was thinking of subscribing to your online coaching program. Have my coach here run the sessions based on your program? The question is, that took a turn. Question is, should I enter your program in January, or will it be a good idea to start now so I can see some improvements for my Arizona race? Thanks for your thoughts on this.
All right.
Ooh, interesting. Where are you going to go?
Jose, thank you for your question. And it's a very good question. And what I liked about this question was you are actually willing to talk to your coach about this, because many athletes aren't. We get at times athletes who want to be in our plan, and especially, Jim, we get this from a lot of pro athletes that want to be in our plan, but they don't want to let their coach know about it. And that's an absolute no-no on my part. It's unprofessional on our end, so we don't, we make sure that athletes have to tell their coaches about it, especially the pro athletes. In your case, as an elite age grouper, it's good that you talk to your coach about this, get the sign off from him or her that they'd be willing to allow you to try, or even have them contact me directly, and we can work together in helping your improvements. Now, regarding the specific question of joining the plan now or waiting until next January, right? Our plan is not a 12-week program, and it's not get ready for one single race plan. It's multiple phases built out over a year. So if you can wait till January, but you still have to go through all the phases, which is a year long. Or you can join now and you'll get done with this phase, and then you'll only have the other several phases to go. So delaying until Jan only delays your progress. Start now.
Start now. I'm going to go back to Mark's question just because he drops the name of one of my athletes who I love and broke his hand last week, so we got to give him a shout out. Jerry, or colleagues. I was introduced by
Jim Colleague.
I was introduced to Tower 26 by a student of yours, Brian Massey. Brian broke his hand on Sunday. We're very bitter. We're never not happy about this, but he's getting better. So he was wearing your jersey and raving about the improvements he's made from working with you guys. I'm from New York, Connecticut area, and I find it to be the most difficult place to find active swim programs. I'm based in Greenwich, Connecticut, where our Y has a 50-meter pool, but the swim team consumes space and they restrict outside coaching. So if you're in Greenwich, Fairfield is not far, and they have a beautiful pool there too. That's where I went to college. Go to Fairfield, swim over there. It's only 15 minutes away. I've consumed the podcast and find your approach quite different than most. It's no surprise why so many others look to your prescriptive formula as no one else can simply match it. I have two questions. Do you have drop-in camps or weekend clinics that folks can fly to in order to get evaluated, done with video, etc.? Second question, do you have any strong swim coaches in the New York, Lower Connecticut area that offer video analysis that you'd recommend?
All right, Mark, thanks for your question. Next time you send one in, I would advise you don't put colleague there.
Yeah. You're lucky, buddy.
Yeah.
You're lucky you got the shout out.
Yeah. Regarding the location and answering your question specifically about recommending any coaches there, a couple things you can do. You can go on to our Facebook page, Tower 26 Swimming and Triathlon, I believe, the group, and you can post that question in there, and there are several thousand people in that group, and we have many of our plan subscribers that live in New York, so they can give you some suggestions of perhaps teams that you can swim there in New York or in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, Connecticut, yeah.
So you'll get some options there. We have one of our coaches that's on our coaches in our plan for us, Coach Jack Fabian, and Jack was an 8-time USA Swimming National Team Open Water coach. He advises our athletes and does some video analysis also, so we can get you in touch with Jack to help with that. Regarding coming out and visiting us, we are actually going to be running several camps next year. I believe we're doing 3 or 4, I think.
And we said that about this year, but it's been planning in the making, and we're doing it next year.
It had to be, I wanted to do them right, and so they'll be done next year. But those are only for our subscribers.
Yep.
So if you end up being on our plan, you'd be invited to that, but it's going to be limited, certainly initially, first couple of years, I'm sure, just to subscribers. But you're always welcome, if you're in town, to drop into one of our pool sessions. Just go on our website, tower26.com, and you find the times and locations there.
And Brian Massey lives across the street from the pool. He's got a gigantic mansion. I'm sure he's willing to rent out a couple rooms to you and your friends. So I'm offering Brian's house to you for the right price. I just take 50% of what we bring in.
That's a big right price for being called colleague.
Yeah. Exactly. It's going to be up a little bit for you, buddy. That last question. Ashley Wolf writes, "Hey, Tower 26 dudes." See, now that's okay, because we're all dudes. So it's all inclusive. It's not Jerry and his clan of misfits. "Hey, Tower 26 dude, I've been listening to your podcast for about a year now, and it's been super enlightening. I'm a master's swim coach. About 5 years ago, the triathlon group of our master's program were thrust upon me. I fumbled through much of the early coaching as I didn't know much about triathlon swimming, but I did know pool swimming. Your podcast has really guided me in areas where I didn't know what I was doing. I was a Division I college swimmer, and my last NCAA season was in 2013. I really loved Olympic distance, and I want to focus on that for the next few years and build my power, and then maybe transfer into 70.3s in the future. My question is, given that my swim is my strongest leg, how much should I be training for it? I found myself training in the swim a lot because my body has had a hard time with the running impact, so I've been trying to build up my cardio with the low impact. Can I get a lot of my cardio training via swimming so I can bike and run less and still improve those? Running just hurts, not an injury, it's just an impact. And I almost never cycle now that I have kids because it's time intensive to gear up and go somewhere safe to ride. Even though my swim is fast comparatively, I want to get faster at racing. I'm not swimming much slower now open water than I was 5 years ago in my first race right after college. I struggled to swim faster than about 75% effort in my swim portion of my race, and I have never had anyone to draft off of or challenge me. How can I challenge myself or motivate myself to go faster when I'm out there swimming solo?
Ashley, thanks for your questions, plural. And by the way, this was trimmed about, I cut out about 3/4 of this question. Ashley wrote us a novel, and she did apologize at the end for writing a novel. But here's the deal, Ashley. You're a terrific swimmer, and it's just a handful of years out from NCAA competitions. And the swim segment in a triathlon, for someone of your ability, of an athlete, is minuscule. Since you're only doing Olympic distances at the moment, it's approximately 18% of the total duration. You are well trained to swim that distance and swim it fast. In fact, you outlined how well you've been doing already. There is no point in spending any abundance amount of time swimming relative to riding and running. You're going to have to suck it up and build specific muscular endurance. And for both of those other sports, running and riding, specifically running, swimmers hate running. There's a reason for it. We've been in the water most of our lives. Ligaments are not very tight. Tendons are not very tight, and they need to be shored up to be able to run. So trying to substitute and do more swimming is not a good thing for a swimmer.
But now also, she's Division I swimmer, so she's used to just going in and cranking out whatever 4,000 yards in a workout.
Yeah.
So when she goes to run, she probably wants to do the same thing. I'm just going to go run 8-10 miles. She hasn't been running at all, so that 8-10 miles is really going to be impact problems with her body. You got to start slow. New runner, run walk for 30 minutes, and then run walk for 40 minutes, and then maybe extend your running and walk for 50 minutes. You got to really be slowly build into that running, and the impact won't affect you as much if you're doing that. But a lot of these elite athletes just want to go right from 0 to 100 miles an hour overnight.
You need a careful, progressive plan with running and riding. Regarding riding, you don't have to go out on the roads and do all the stuff you do. Why don't you tell
I never
what
go
you need to
outside.
do?
I mean, with the trainer, the Advent is Zwift and Trainer Road, and the trainers. I mean, you get a cheap fluid trainer and just knock out heart rate zones for an hour. It's much quicker. It's much more time efficient. You don't have to spend it, like you said, gearing up, going somewhere to ride, dealing with stoplights and traffic. I do 95% of all my riding on the trainer, actually.
Right. So, actually, I don't think this is actually as difficult as you've laid it out to be. You just have to decide, hey, I got to allocate my time a little bit differently. You don't need to swim as much as you are. One or two times a week is plenty good for you on your ability level. Being able to go above 75% heart rate on the swim, it's not even necessary. You're such a good athlete already. You'll be at the front of the pack no matter what. You got to start focusing on your biking and running.
There you go. Thanks for the question, Ashley. And if you want to bother me, you can write me, Jim@tower26.com. I'll fill you in on some more triathlon training tips. Jared, we're going to talk about next episode.
I'm not sure yet. I mean, truthfully.
Well, he's a man of few words.
Well,
that much.
We've done such a poor job at overcommitting and underdelivering in 2019 that I think we need to undercommit and overdeliver going forward.
So it's going to be a surprise. When we pop up. So you're going to see our beautiful mugs, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 6 months. Who knows?
No, we're going to be here at a minimum, we know, at least once a month. And if we get in 2 episodes a month, that'll be terrific. But we cannot go the duration of time that we've been going.
I'd do it daily if I could. If you allowed it, I would do it daily. We could sit here. We could talk about, Christoph's shorts, the butterfly shorts he's wearing right now. We could talk about anything you want to talk about. We could do this daily. So I'm always game. So 2 weeks, I say, let's do it 2 weeks, a month. We'll be here. We'll get it done. It's been a fun one, Jared. We're looking forward to that next episode. Christoph, we got anything from you? Any questions or anything? Anybody write anything in? I'm getting the thumbs up. It's time to go. We've been on the air for too long already, and people are tired of my voice. Jared, thanks for all the nuggets. We appreciate it. Remember, guys, write us contact@tower26.com. on iTunes. Let's get some more subscriptions. Let's get some more reviews. Those 5-star reviews always help with spreading the word. And tell your friends. Go to coaching.tower26.com to subscribe to the plan and get race ready now. So for Jerry Rodriguez, Christelle Balestra, this is Jim Leminski, the Tower 26 Be Race Ready Podcast.